We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
G'day and welcome to another live recording of the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove there is more than one way to be a man. How do we do that? We do that by bringing on experts, by guests, by people with incredible stories that can teach us different things, different ways, different approaches of how we can show up as men, as husbands, as fathers, as brothers, as sons, as citizens. And I have one such guest today. Today's guest, Wayne Forrest, is living proof that the human spirit can rise from devastation to transformation. Wayne is a former farmer and rugby player whose life changed forever after a devastating neck injury left him paralyzed from the chest down. But that wasn't the end of his story. It was just the beginning. Today, Wayne is a certified mastery coach, TEDx speaker, and transformational coach of the year from the Brave Thinking Institute, and he is helping people all over the world unlock their inner warrior and reclaim their power. In this episode, we're going to be diving deep into what it means to truly rise and to love and to lead no matter your circumstances and no matter what cards are dealt. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be fun.
And, you know, love how the universe works or just how things happen. You're in New Zealand and you happen to have someone in your area that hosts a men's circle and you've been to one of our circles. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was really good evening.
Great to hear, man. It's just really cool to see, like, the world gets so small when we're existing in 30 different countries and the work continues and men like yourself are willing to show up and be a part and be present to hold space for other men. So let's jump straight in because I know we've got a tight little timeline here. Let's talk about the accident. Let's talk about life as it was happening, life before, and then how everything changed for you.
Yeah, man, it really threw a spanner in the works from going from a boy that grew up on a farm and loved it, absolutely loved it. I immersed myself in farming. You know, I love the physical, love shearing sheep. I could shear a sheep at the age of 12, mate.
Wow.
Had my own horse and dogs at 10. You know, there was nothing I couldn't do as a young fella on the farm. And, you know, it was obvious to me I was going to be a farmer. Got married pretty early and started creating my own business and had two kind of businesses at the time of my accident. Loved being fit, you know, I was running, I loved walking, all those sort of things. And the day of the accident was just like any other normal day. I played rugby all through my grades, right from the age of 5. Was playing for my club and captain of the day and just made a mistake right at the end of the game. I could have been working too hard and playing too hard, not sure, but I just made a mistake and bang, my whole life changed. And yeah, it was a terrible moment. I was conscious, I was in pain. Took a while for the ambulance to come with a doctor and gave me some medicine and everything was blurry for pretty much 5 days in and out of consciousness. And I remember waking up in Burwood Hospital, which is it's in Christchurch in the South Island, New Zealand, and I lived in the North Island. And the accident happened in North Island. And I remember just waking up and looking at the ceiling and thinking, shit, please let it be a bad dream. You know? And that was kind of the feeling I had for weeks. Waking up and thinking, God, damn, it's not. And I couldn't move anything. I couldn't move my hands. I couldn't move my arms very well. and I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't walk. I had to rely on nurses for everything from feeding to going to the toilet. And, being brought up in that farming, rugby, country lifestyle of the ego and the man, all of a sudden that was destroyed, and I was relying on people, and I was so used to being so self-efficient, so independent, and here I was totally reliant and frail and not having movement. And the doctor came in and said, "You're not going to walk again," and that just destroyed me. And I say to people, be careful what you believe. Belief is a very powerful thing. And I took on that belief. But he also said that I wouldn't push out of that hospital, and I did. And I can remember there was a moment, Brendan, where I just said to myself, how am I going to survive this? And there was this voice, quiet, calm voice inside me that just said, you're going to do what you love. And I knew it was farming. So that set me on a path. I didn't know how I was going to farm from the disability side of things. I couldn't hardly move. I didn't have any strength, but that set me on a goal, I suppose, or a vision.
So I want to thank you. I want to go to those moments where the doctor's delivering the news to you. How long were you in hospital? Or how long were you conscious and aware that the doctor came in and gave you that news?
It would have been like in the first 2 weeks.
First 2 weeks.
10 days he came in. It took me about 5 days to come right. I had pneumonia from being on the wet ground. So I was quite sick in those first 5 days or so. And I can remember my daughters had sort of arrived. I had twin daughters at the time who were 16 months. And they came down to see me. And it was about that time. So it was about 2 weeks after my accident. And yeah, it just ripped my heart out. It was a real moment of, whoa, just my whole life had been destroyed.
Right.
That I knew of, the life that I knew of.
Yeah. Because I often wonder, I just have this curiosity of where the jump occurs. Because you mentioned that there was that point where you went, do what you love, do farming, right? Or it was the doctor saying, you're not going to push out of here, and you did. In those moments of despair, in those moments of just feeling gutted about what has happened, how or did sparks start to come up of like defiance of the news, or did it at all, or how did it? I'm just curious of your process and how things unfolded.
I think everyone's different, Brendan, and I was brought up to never look back too much, always look forward, and I think that helped me in this situation. My parents are very positive people that always look forward, even if things are going wrong. They always look for the solution. So I think that helped. There probably was this 30 years ago this month.
Wow.
Yeah, in May. And so things are foggy, but I always had that competitive streak as well. And there was other people that were a little bit better than me. So I put myself up against them in the gym or getting up, or, I had that kind of, competitiveness. It was probably the same competitiveness I know it was, that created the accident as well, right? I was willing to put my body on the line to beat the opposition. And so I had that, competitiveness in the classroom, you could say, of learning to push my chair, to go to the gym. I was going to beat the guy that had more movement next to me, if that makes sense.
Got you. So it sounds like you have this natural orientation to prove something or to challenge yourself, and just you enjoy competition. You enjoy the challenge. You enjoy having someone that you can dance with and kind of push each other.
Yeah. And I quite often talk about this, Brendan. I don't know if this is the right place for it, but it's interesting, our ego, right? The male ego of being that farm boy in that era of 90s, I can out drink anybody. I can out, I'm this big, strong farmer boy.
Yeah.
But yet it was there for the wrong reason. I was trying to prove to everybody that I was good enough.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a really healthy competition, which possibly came afterwards, because I didn't deny anyone else their success.
Sure.
Right. I think that's really healthy competition. But prior to my accident, I think I was quite often stuck in that unhealthy competition that I had to prove myself to others. Yeah. And that's what caused my accident. Yeah. Literally, I know what my mindset was and the thoughts that were going through my head when I went into that tackle and that ruck that collapsed, mall that collapsed. I literally put myself in danger because I couldn't let anyone think that I had been beaten.
So let's stop here for a moment. I want that to sink in. For anyone listening, we've had many people come on the show to talk about this. People often joke, like, why do men live on average 7 years less than women? And there's always that joke of like a guy being like, hold my beer, and then like runs off and jumps off a bridge into water or whatever that is. And I get the joke and I get the humor behind it. But I also want to illuminate this fact, is that men for generations have sacrificed their health and their well-being for the sake of upholding some identity that they feel like they have to uphold, some image that they have to uphold. Whether it's taking down the most drinks, whether it's like lifting the heaviest thing, whether it's getting into fights and being the last one standing, whether it's overworking and going outside of what's expected, just so you have that strong sense of being a provider, but in turn sacrificing relationships and health. This is one of the oldest tropes in how we've been raised, how boys have been raised to be men, is that you have to be self-sacrificing. Even if it's not for others, it's self-sacrificing to yourself so that you can uphold this ego or this identity as the best or the man or whatever. And so thank you for sharing that. I wanted to draw that line there to kind of connect the dots, because that is a real thing. I remember, the accident that retired me from gymnastics, that retired me from the gods are angry. I don't know if you heard that one. They love that we're talking about this. The old school masculine gods are like, how dare you? But the accident that retired me from a sport that I love, that I was passionate about, from the Australian team, where I'd put all my eggs in all the baskets of just in the one basket of being a gymnast, I was showing off. There were girls watching and I was showing off, and I chucked a skill that I'd never done before and smacked my head on the bar and smacked my ankle right behind it and lost 2 pints of blood and shattered my ankle. And it's like, why? Threw it all away because I was trying to impress someone. And it's so interesting. It's so interesting to and of course, life happens, and there's no point looking back with regrets, because look at the gifts and the impact that we can have now because of such things.
Yeah, well, it took me on a totally different path as well. So there's so much opportunity in such an accident as well, and often a lot of people don't see the opportunity as well.
Yeah. So let me ask you a messed up question.
Yeah, love it. Bring it on.
How has this been the best thing that's ever happened to you?
I wouldn't. First of all, I want to say there was a lot of ups and downs. We're 30 years, right?
Sure.
So there was a lot of ups and downs, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, right? To have to go through what I went through, but yet I was destined for farming, and that's all, right? Out in the country, isolated. Would probably only seen one person a week if I was lucky, right? I ended up going on a path of service for others because it made me feel better about myself. And that brought me to self-development and coaching, writing a book. It's all about helping others through my experience and what I've learned in those 30 years, right? And I get to speak to you, Brendan. I've been on podcasts. You never know the ripple effect, but I'm out there, putting myself out there, talking about my experience and what I've learned from it. And I don't know if I've touched one person or thousands of people, but that ripple effect, even of one person that might be listening to this, that might get something that really just sets them on a path to their greatness, which is what I call the inner warrior in us, right? Then you can't, that's special. This experience has got something special in it. And I have gratitude in the experience, which is, it's humbling, I suppose.
What's up, everyone? Many of you know, and some of you don't, that I use my voice for a living. Not just this show, but also as an executive coach and team facilitator in the tech space, which means I need to be sharp. I need to be on the money, on my game, making sure I'm saying the right things at the right time to create the perfect results. And so, in the year since I've been using Magic Mind, it has become essential to ensure I deliver the right message at the right time. Thanks to ingredients like lion's mane mushroom, the powerhouse for brain health, ashwagandha that keep me calm and my cortisol levels low. If you yourself find yourself stumbling over your words or getting too jittery from your coffee, check out Magic Mind. You can get up to 48% off using our code MANKIND50 at checkout, and codes will be in the show notes. When you support our sponsors, you support our show. And let's get back to the show. Well, talk about ripple effects, right? So you never know having these conversations. Like I've recorded episodes on this podcast that I didn't think were all that great, to be honest with you. And then I get an email from a listener saying that just rocked my world and changed my life. So who am I to say, right? Yeah. But one thing I can tell you is that we have a pretty sizable community here in the Mankind Project of men with various disabilities and inabilities to move, to walk. I mean, you're certainly not the first to come on the show, probably number 7 to come on the show that is paraplegic or is quadriplegic, or like we have many men come and share their story. And we have weekends catered to men that require extra care and service to do something like our weekend training. It's called a barrier-free weekend. And I know many of those men listen to the show as well. So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll keep them in our hearts as we continue this conversation.
Love that, Bo. I love that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about the inner warrior, your definition of the inner warrior, and how you help others find theirs.
Well, I try to make it really easy. And so I reckon that we've got two sides to our nature as a human being, right? We're actually a spiritual being having a human experience. So we have the human experience, which is our timeline, right? It's our birth date to our death date. And we get to experience this life, right? There's we take beliefs from that. We create beliefs from our upbringing. There's societal beliefs. There's, whatever. There's a whole lot of experiences which we take and make mean something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we've got the second side of our nature, which is more spiritual. And I just like to call it the inner warrior. People, if they've got a religious context, might call it the God within them, or spirit, or it's the part of us that seems to have that quiet voice of intuition, right? It is our intuition, it's our gut sense, it's that knowing in us, right? And it's connected to nature, it's connected to this universe, I believe, right? And so we've got these two sides of the personality. And I like the inner warrior. I like to call it the inner warrior because it's my power. It's knowing. It's genius. Each one of us was born genius. If you look at a little baby, far out, and the amount of it that it absorbs and grows in those first years is incredible, right? Yeah. It's because it's got this open genius mind of just sucking up information, right? We've still got that mind. We've just turned it off in the human experience. The human experience, we've made something mean something and we've gone, right, I'm not doing that anymore. It's too painful, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, we've set conditions.
Yeah, we're all of a sudden afraid of failure. There's a lovely little story or proverb that you talk about a baby, baby learned to walk. It never looked at failure because it fell down so many times and just kept on getting up, right? And then as men or human beings, we grow up and all of a sudden we get afraid of falling down. It might be in our business or it might be in love, it might be in whatever. And it's because we've been drummed into us that we're not genius. So that's one truth that I take. And I always say to the listeners, and it's in my book, don't believe anything I say. Be curious and question everything because you'll come to your own truth, right? And it'll resonate with some people and it won't. But the second part is we, in a warrior, the spiritual side, we're unconditional love. We're whole. We're not broken. There's no broken part of us. We are just beautiful love. And in the book, again, I talk about, and with my clients, what is conditioned love is a human experience that we are trying to get love, right? And that is not the inner warrior. It's the human experience. The inner warrior is unconditional love. It's giving. It's you're full. You just want to give more, right?
Yeah. Pouring from an overflowing cup.
Yeah. Beautiful, right? So there's two things, two truths. I am genius, mind. I am unconditional love. And I have all the answers I need within me. And the third part of that is that I've gone blank. What is my third part? But it is, it'll come to me in a minute.
Sure.
The inner warrior is just that knowing in us that knows all things, and it's nature. We're growing. We're always wanting to expand and grow. So that's the inner warrior, and so when I teach clients, I show them by asking them questions so they can see the difference. Are they in that conditioned love or unconditional love? Are they in that genius mind or are they in the human experience? And then we can move that person into that power that we all have.
Fantastic. Yeah. It sounds like you're really guiding them to recognize like that they're holding the pen, right? That their fate hasn't been written for them, that they're the author and that they're in charge and responsible for writing the next couple chapters, regardless of what's come before in the previous chapters.
Yeah, man. No, that's a big point, is that nothing from this present moment defines us, who we are. Whatever belief the listener might have, I believe that nothing defines who you are from this point forward. You can choose to step into your greatness from this moment. As human beings, we're going to mess up and we go back into the human experience and we feel sorry for ourselves, or we get angry, or we get triggered, or whatever. That's part of the experience, is learning to step from that experience back into our power and go from there.
So when you work with a lot of fathers, and I know a big part of your work is helping fathers choose presence and to be in the moment as opposed to choosing pain or performing. Set that up for me and the listeners as to what is it that draws men towards pain and performing as opposed to actual presence?
Well, the biggest one that I've found for myself is that up until now, I felt like there's something missing. Like there's a hole, right? Whatever that is, it's like painful. And as men, we push down whatever that pain is, and we try to hold it down and escape from it, right? We've been taught to not show emotion. And that emotion or that pain is emotion, right? And it's painful, and we've been taught not to look at it. So we push it down until we get angry, depressed, anxious, frustrated, whatever that is, emotion. And I think as parents and as partners, we have to learn to open up that pain. Look at it. I love The Dark Knight. The inner warrior is the hero of The Dark Knight, right? The hero or the inner warrior will look at your pain, stare it straight in the face, go, yes. Don't necessarily need to know where it comes from. We know it's somewhere in our experience as a human being, right? It wasn't there when we were born. Well, some say it might have been, but for me, that doesn't really matter. It's about understanding somewhere in my human experience, I've got pain, right? I've taken something and perceived something as a young child, and it's painful. But I need to look at it. I need to look at it square in the face. So then once I can do that, I can start to heal it. And I can choose. Once I have acknowledged the pain, I can choose to stay in that pain or choose to step into my inner warrior and be unconditional love. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I teach when someone's in their pain.
No, I love that, because that's so much in alignment with the work we do in the project, which is, really helping men identify, acknowledge that this part of them, whether something that they consciously remember or just subconsciously shove down, identifying that pain is pulling strings in their lives today, in their choices, their behaviors, their actions. Like, many of our experiences inform a lot of our lenses and how we look at the world. And if we deny them and don't look at them and shove them down, they're going to come up in various ways in some form or fashion, usually when we least want them to.
Yeah, and there's a big part of this too. We have to remember we are creation itself, right? Whatever this power is that's creating stuff in the world, we are part of that power. So if we're creation, we have to create something. It's no good just sitting in the pain and trying to move out of it. We have to move forward by being the inner warrior of creation. Create something. And, we were talking about this before we started this podcast. Men quite often find that they don't know what to create. There's something missing in their life, right? It doesn't matter what you pick to start with, just pick something that you would love to create. It might be a hobby, it might be the family partnership, it might be a business, it might be something big, but it doesn't have to be. It can. I realize now my journey that creation of going back to the farm set me on the journey to where I am today, because I had a vision of what I wanted to do, right, or create, and that was run 1,100 acre farm again, which I did. And once I did that, it was like, wow, I need something else. And and of course, I asked that question. Be careful what you ask. The universe gave me another thing to create, and that was a thing called Backup New Zealand, which was extreme outdoor activities for people with disabilities.
Wow.
Integrated with Brendan, people that didn't have disabilities, physical, right? And it set me on the path of, wow, I naturally was helping people on the courses, and I loved helping people. And that set me on another path and another path. And so this is it. The secret to this is being in our green growing edge of growing, being uncomfortable, growing into the next version of Brendan or the next version of Wayne.
Yeah.
If we sit still, we get sucked into the human experience and the pity and the anger and the frustration. And so that's the two parts of understanding that you are not the human experience, you are then a warrior, and you have to create. You've come here to create something, so create it.
So there's a couple of things I want to point to. The description and the imagery that you paint of the inner warrior is quite different than the warriors that you or I were raised on to be the models of healthy manhood and masculinity, because we look at like the Clint Eastwoods, the good, there was it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And we see this person that just wanders off into the desert after intense pain and conflict, and someone that isn't walking through it, someone that isn't acknowledging and processing and moving through the pain, but in fact walking away from it. Some would say running away from it. Yet he's the hero. He's the model of masculinity and toughness that we want to follow. And what I'm hearing you say is that the inner warrior doesn't deny emotions or feelings, but acknowledges them, becomes aware of them, does the deep work around them, and still chooses to step forward, still chooses to push through that growth edge to achieve big things. But something that I'm also hearing you say is that this was not struck by lightning, massive amounts of motivation, achieved it all in one day. What I'm picking from your story is that it was a case of just building blocks, just building momentum over time with little wins here and there that began to compound over time.
Well, awareness has come with that over 30 years. So I'm speeding it up, right? Because I'm aware of the process, or there's always a pattern to success. And there's a pattern to failure, right? I don't believe in failure, because failure is just feedback, right? And I love what you said, stepping towards the thing that we fear most is courage, right? And that's what courage is. We've all got the ability to be courageous. As a kid, I always wondered if I would be courageous enough, You know, you think about war movies and all that. I always thought, oh, God, I'm a bit of a chicken. Would I be really courageous enough to run towards that fear of death? And then I've worked out that we all have this deep fear of pain, as men especially. And I think it's in women as well, but I think women deal with it differently than men a little bit. You know, they want to talk about
honestly, they do it better.
Yeah,
and I think we need to take a page.
Yeah. You know, it's. I always talk about the power of vulnerability. You know, being able to be vulnerable as a man and speak your truth. Whew.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't seen one man do that and not think it was powerful.
Mm-hmm. It's it's about creating the space in which men feel safe enough to do it, because when we do it as little kids in bids for connection, we get shut down. Well, many of us did. I did when I tried that bid for connection. Telling my best friend when I was 5, like I love you, and he turns around and says, "Oh, you're gay," and starts telling all the other kids in class. Like, you know, it's these like little things, but like as a little kid, you remember that.
Totally.
And it's like, oh, danger. Do not press that button. Do not share. Do not be vulnerable. And as you're saying, like when grown men have the space where they can do that and they know that the stakes aren't that high, that they're going to be held, they're going to be supported no matter what comes out of their mouth, it's truly powerful.
And the secret is to know what to do with that pain when you've opened the box, right? That you know, it's no good. Sometimes I've noticed some of these places, you open the box and what do you do with the pain? They don't know, so they close the box again as soon as they go back into the world, right? So that's also the next step is, right, what am I going to do with this pain? And that's when I say step into your inner warrior. Step into that, you know, create something with that pain. What is it that you would love to create? It doesn't need, like I said, it can be anything. Just start, because that process will take you on your own journey, your own path. And always come back to be curious. Always be curious. Question everything. Question this recording or this live that you're listening to right now. Don't take my belief. Don't take Brendan's belief. Question, because you'll come to your own truth. And that is powerful when you start to really step into that truth. And I think that's the modern masculine man, Brendan, you know? A man who can step into his truth, stand up for what he believes, and stand beside the feminine, which we all have in each of us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So Wayne, mate, I could talk to you for hours, but I understand that we have a window here to get as much juice out of the squeeze, and you've been incredibly generous. And you mentioned there's an offer you'd like to offer to the Mankind podcast audience. So tell us about that. Tell us how they can get their hands on it, and we'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Yeah, mate. I'd love to offer a complimentary session for first five lucky people for this month, right? I only have 5 left. It's a 45-minute one-on-one session with me on Zoom, where we look at what it is. There's always a prominent thought process with these things. So let's have a look at that paradigm of thought that is keeping you where you are, stuck quite often in what you're creating. And once we've looked at that and found that, we can then look at what it is that you would love. If everything worked out, what would it be that you would love in your life? And then the third part is the session where we just notice that there's a gap. How do we bridge that, right? What's the first step for you? And we'll, you'll come away with that first step from that session. That would have a value on it. So, there's $250 value there, and it's complimentary for the first 5 that can jump on there and
Fantastic.
book. So there'll be a link. Just go in there, have a look at the times that suit you, and jump in there. Don't waste time. Get in there and do it. Right.
Well,
it's such a valuable thing. You'll go away with a lot of power.
I believe it. So to our LinkedIn audience that's joined us live, that link is in the comment section right now. So you can get your hands on that and go ahead and book a call. And for those of you that are joining us through the podcast or wherever you get your podcast, check the show notes. I'm going to have that in there so you can get a hold of it too, if you're lucky enough to be one of those 5. Wayne, thank you so much for being here, mate, and taking this time to, to share your story and show us that despite what immeasurable odds can be placed in front of anyone, at the end of the day, they have to pick up the pen and write their own story from there, irregardless of the cards that's put in front of them, which is easy for me to say, standing here on 2 feet, interviewing you right now. But you said it. You said it. So there's the validity in the message and the conversation today. So, mate, thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, pleasure's all mine. And of course, the utmost pleasure goes to serving each of you that join us each and every week for these conversations that we have here on the Mankind Podcast, where we prove that there is more than one way to be a man. What do you say, Wayne? Have we done that today?
I think we've done a good job there, Brendan.
I think we've done a bang-up job. Lots of love, and the Wallabies rule and the All Blacks stink.
Awesome.
This has been another episode of the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. We have been your host, Boyson Hodgson, and myself, Brandon Clift, and we want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. If you want to find out more about today's guests and support them in their mission, you can find links to them in the show notes. Now, if you have found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, we are always grateful for a rating and review of the show on iTunes. Now, above all else, we've got to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you have made it possible for us to let men all over the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if something in this episode has touched you, then perhaps it is the call to action to get involved in men's work. With live trainings happening constantly and in-person trainings happening all over the world, the Mankind Project definitely has something for you. Now, if you've enjoyed the music in this episode and all of our episodes, be sure to check out Jim Donovan and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. And lastly, just know, what it means to me to be a man is completely different than what it means for you. That is the beauty of this journey. So if you are looking for guidance, support, and community as you begin to unpack and dive deeper into your men's work journey, then you know where to find us. Same place, same time, next week. Lots of love. We'll see you then.
Hey, it's Boyson here with the Mankind Podcast. We are closing in on 100 5-star reviews of this podcast, and we have a goal. Brandon and I want to get to 250 5-star reviews. So help us out, will you? Please go to the Mankind Podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a review. Thank you. Hey, it's Boyson. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.